In the year 50 BC, much of Western Europe, along with wide stretches of the Middle East and North Africa, had fallen under Roman rule. Empires rose, borders shifted, and the world reshaped itself under the steady march of conquest. And yet, far from the clash of armies and the ambitions of generals, there stood a place devoted not to war, but to knowledge. This story begins in the Great Library of Alexandria. On this particular day, 3 Gaul Druids and 2 Gaul warriors crossed its vast thresholds. The Druids of old were known never to write their knowledge down. Everything they learned was passed by memory, from mouth to ear, from master to student, through generations unbroken by ink or parchment. Yet this did not mean that a Druid knew all there was to know. Even the wisest still had questions, especially when facing the collected knowledge of nearly the entire known world. Among them was Solander, a guardian of the earth, well known among the Druid circles for his deep understanding of the world, the spiritual realms, and the universe. Together with the 2 warriors, he had traveled far to reach the legendary library. They had come in search of unfinished recipes and long-forgotten potions knowledge that the Druids had lost to time. And perhaps, if fortune favored them, 1 or 2 star maps might also prove useful. Solander carried a large leather bag slung over his shoulder. Inside it rested papyrus sheets and charcoal pencils for writing, though he knew full well that the Druids themselves would never use such tools. Their greatest skill was memory, vast, living libraries of the mind. Still, habits had a way of following travelers, even into places where they were not truly needed. The 2 Gaul warriors proved to be excellent helpers. With quiet efficiency, they gathered the requested scrolls, stone tablets, and ancient books, spreading them carefully across one of the great study tables in the heart of the library. Knowledge lay open before them in layers of ink, stone, and centuries. And there, standing at the center of the vast hall, Panoramix studied the pyramid schematics laid before him. He stroked his long beard and mustache thoughtfully as his eyes traced lines and angles across the ancient designs. The air around him felt oddly still, as if the very stone of the library itself were listening to his thoughts. "Well, what do you know?" he murmured at last. "The pyramids do indeed have supporting pillars beneath them. And the alloys are here too. Most unusual. Perhaps they truly were used as portals to other worlds after all." "Fascinating," huffed Herbalix from somewhere far above. He was clinging to the top of an exceedingly tall ladder, balancing on 1 foot while stretching for a dusty scroll that threatened to disintegrate at the mere thought of being touched. "All very marvelous," he added, reaching a little higher. "But it still doesn't improve the delivery times of the galactic fishmonger, does it?" The 2 Gaul warriors stood a short distance away from the study table, pretending rather unsuccessfully not to eavesdrop. One of them, Brox, broad as an oak trunk and built like one too, frowned at the endless shelves stretching into the shadows. "Do you reckon?" he whispered. "They've got a map in here that shows where the kitchen is?" His companion, Lyrics, leaner and far too thoughtful for his own good, folded his arms and sighed. "This," he said softly, "is the kitchen." Brox blinked. "But for words?" "For worlds," Lyrics corrected. "And ideas. And things that make your head hurt." Brox considered this for a moment. "I preferred the soup yesterday." A sudden sound cut through the quiet of the library. A trumpet, then another, and another still bright, brassy, and far too loud for a place dedicated to silence. Every head turned. From somewhere deep beyond the great outer doors came the measured rhythm of approaching footsteps, many of them, and the soft murmur of voices growing steadily closer. The enormous entrance doors of the great library shuddered, then slowly began to open. Sunlight spilled inward like molten gold. First came the guards, polished armor gleaming, then servants, officials, and attendants in flowing linens. And at the very center of it all, Cleopatra. She walked as though the library itself had been built for this exact moment. Pride shone in her eyes as she gestured warmly to the towering shelves. "And here," she said with quiet delight, "rests the collected knowledge of the world." Beside her strode Julius Caesar, hands folded comfortably behind his back, boots echoing against the marble floor. He gave an appreciative nod, though whether it was for the library or for Cleopatra herself was difficult to tell. "Yes, yes," he murmured. "Very comprehensive." At the far end of the hall, the librarian hastened forward, bowing deeply as the royal pair approached, voice trembling with reverence. "Welcome, divine Queen Cleopatra and Gaius Julius Caesar," he intoned. "The Great Library is honored by your presence." Cleopatra smiled, radiant. Caesar merely smirked. And somewhere between the scrolls, schematics, druids, and warriors, fate quietly shifted its position. Behind the towering shelves, Rox's stare now hardened. He leaned closer to Lyrics, his voice a low growl now. "That's him," he murmured. The face on the coins. Lyrics followed his gaze. The polished armor, the red cloak, the casual authority in every step. "Yes," he said quietly. "That's him." Rox's hands clenched at his sides. "The Butcher of Gaul," he said. Lyrics's fingers wrapped tightly around his forearm. Brox, no. But Brox had already taken a step forward. Another. The sound of his heavy boots echoed far more loudly than he intended across the marble floor. A few Roman soldiers shifted instantly, hands falling to sword hilts. Cleopatra's gaze flicked up at once. Caesar turned slowly. Brox stopped only a few paces away now, chest rising and falling like a storm-held sea. "You," Brox said. Lyrics hurried to his side, his grip desperate now. "Brox, stop. You," Brox repeated, voice trembling with barely leashed fire. "You took our lands, our fathers and mothers, our sons and daughters. You call it empire. We call it ash." A murmur rippled through the hall. Panoramics looked up from the schematics at last. The Druids drew together subtly, not in fear, but in ancient instinct. And Solander felt the air shift. The soldiers stepped forward a fraction. Caesar lifted one hand lazily. "Ah," he smiled. "A provincial grievance." Brox surged another half-step forward. "You sit in gold while our villages burn," he roared. "You stamp your face on our suffering and call it civilization." Lyrics pulled at him again. "That's enough, Brox." Cleopatra's voice cut in cool and measured. "This is a place of learning, not rebellion." Caesar glanced at her briefly, then back at Brox, amused now. "You should be honored," he said lightly, "to be conquered by Rome." Brox's breath came harsh and raw. Behind him, Lyrics whispered urgently, "Please, we will not win this with words or steel." But Brox had no more room left inside himself for caution. "You took Gaul," he said hoarsely. "Give it back." A hush fell. Then Caesar laughed. It was soft, dismissive, dangerous in its casualness. "Empires are not returned," he said. "They are inherited by the worthy." As he spoke, he shifted his weight, folding his arms comfortably across his chest, and leaned. Against the fire pillar, Lyrics' eyes widened. "Brox!" There came a sound like a muffled crack. Please click and subscribe if you enjoyed the first part of this story, so you will always know when the next story is available. Thank you.